We used to be able to see the World Trade Center from between the buildings from our south window here. And that's gone now. I really miss it. I never go past that window now without remembering that, and I'm hoping it's going past that window used to be harder. It's gotten easier. Now it's a bittersweet memory. After it happened, there was a lot of talk. They would go back into old movies and talk about optically removing the World Trade Towers because it was too disturbing for people to see. And I remember Anna Switzer saying making a comment that I felt was very true, that just because if you lose a parent or a relative, you don't get rid of their photograph. I mean, you have to remember that they were alive and honor their memory, and it's bittersweet. I mean, you still keep their images around.
I dropped our son off at school that morning, and there's sort of the yard time where you sort of chat with the other parents in the yard. You drop your kids off, and then you chat some more, and then you go on your way. And so I dropped him off, and then I was chatting with someone outside the school building, and we heard this noise, and we both looked up, and we saw this plane, and we kind of looked at each other and said, boy, that plane's really, really low. And then we saw it just hit the tower, and there was this gigantic explosion, the big fireball. And it was so not real, because you've seen that explosion in movie after movie after movie after movie, where the building blows up, or the truck blows up, or the car blows up, or whatever it is.
And it was hard because the buildings were so monolithic. Even they were so much a part of our life. We'd look up at them every day, and we'd talk about them. Some days the tops would be covered in clouds, and I'd talk to Angus about it. I'd say, wouldn't it be cool to live up or work up there, and you'd be up in the clouds working at your desk. And just a couple of years, I think for his 5th or 6th birthday, a friend had taken us up to dinner for Angus's birthday at Windows on the World, which was an extraordinary gift for a child that age. And that, just thinking that place was not there anymore, where we had been up in the clouds and looking down at incredible views. But to think about these monolithic structures, and then to think, well, there are people inside. They were just these things. You never really thought about people inside because they were so silver and like non-human. It was hard to imagine people inside, but I kept having to force myself to think what those people must be going through. And I was watching it and thinking, well, the people right there at the point of impact are gone. The people on the plane are gone. Maybe the people up on top, the helicopters, might come. I was thinking, okay, now it's time for Bruce Willis or Arnold Schwarzenegger to come, okay?
It's such an inconceivable event that the way you have to relate to it is, a plane hitting a building and there being a big ball of fire and then the building falling down. Oh yeah, I've seen that before. I've seen that in a movie. And so I think I think that people, you naturally make that connection because the only other time you had an experience anything like that is when watching a movie. So I think you automatically make that connection. Everyone was in the middle of the street. There were no cars. It was very quiet because there's no traffic noise. And then everyone was just walking down the street, sort of staring ahead and pointing and oohing and eyeing, walking towards it, sort of marching towards it. And I was just thinking to myself, what are these people thinking? Get away.
The fact that it was my birthday and my 45th birthday seemed to me to even add another layer onto that experience. And I felt that day such a deep sense of destiny, of all the decisions I made in my life brought me to the point where I was sitting here just a few feet away, and I heard the plane go overhead, and then watched the tower fall from my roof. And I just had such a deep sense that I was put there by fate or God, destiny, whatever, to be a witness. I got a call to go into work, to go in to edit a documentary that was being done right away. I think they called me because the island was shut down, and many editors live in Brooklyn and New Jersey, and they couldn't come in, so they called me. And then again, I felt as though, first of all, I felt like, you must be out of your mind. You know, I couldn't possibly go in and work. I just rescued my child, but they kept pestering me, and I finally, at about 11 o'clock that night, I told them I'd come in the next day. Because by that time, I really had felt that I was watching the news coverage, and it was already becoming so politicized and so reduced to bad and good, them, us, even though we didn't know who them was. I mean, I certainly agreed that whoever did this was unspeakably evil, but I also didn't think it was nothing is ever as simple as that. And I remember seeing some footage that was even more disturbing to me than I think watching the horror of it on TV. And that was, they talked about, when they got tired of just showing this burning buildings over and over again, they started moving into world reaction around the world, and they showed some footage of people celebrating on the West Bank. And at the time, it didn't register to me, but in the West Bank, it was nighttime. But this footage was daytime, and people were out celebrating in the streets. And it didn't occur to me, and it should have, because I know how they make TV. They use stock footage of people celebrating some other event in the West Bank. But for me to see, at that time we thought it might be 10,000 people. Fortunately, it was a lot less. But to see people jumping, to think about what had happened, and then to see people celebrating was just the most horrific head trip for me. That was really disturbing to me, and I think that was very irresponsible for the media to do that. I think it was CNN. I don't think they ever officially apologized for that or made it clear that it was not actual footage.
I work on movies as a prop person, so I had it left over from some police movie or something. So I just brought it home so that there's a sort of nice complement of first aid supplies. And then got a little crank-up radio so that even if there's no power, we can listen to the radio. And there's a little crank flashlight. I think there's a roll of duct tape, because you have to have duct tape, I've been told. And
we scanned our passports.
Scans of passports. In theory, there should be a big envelope full of cash, for bribing officials and things, except that we don't actually have enough money to have any cash in it. But, there's a sort of Leatherman that, has like the knife and the pliers and the, it's,
And we shopped gas masks
I'm not sure
on
what
the
else is
internet, but didn't buy them yet. The movie he's working on in Italy involves a lot of scuba diving and
water things.
Related things. And so he acquired an inflatable life raft, I think that must have been on an airplane, a fighter jet or something at some point. It's a little yellow thing.
lifeboat.
And it has a CO2 cartridge, so you hit it and it blows itself up. And he blew it up the other night, and it actually held air, so it would work.
Yeah, I don't know that it would hold all three of us.
It wouldn't hold all three of us. But, thinking about what happened here after September 11th, the entire island was shut down, and the only way off, after some people got out that really hit the road right away, but if you didn't leave right away, the only way out would have been by boat. And
or walking across bridges.
He was having headaches. He was having nausea. But after he went back to school with all his friends, he was fine.
Although every time we changed schools, he got sick.
He got sick again. It was something about that first day, that first day. Again, I think he associated that with something bad happening. I went in to wake him up, and he was laughing as he was waking up. I said, "What were you laughing about?" And he said, "I was having a really funny dream." And I said, "Well, tell me your dream." And this was months afterwards. And he said, "I was dreaming that the son of bin Laden was trying to flush me down the toilet." And I was horrified, but I didn't say it. I was like, "Oh, really? Well, then why were you laughing? Weren't you scared?" He said, "No, I thought it was the funniest thing because there's no way my head was going to fit down the toilet." And that whole year, again, the year afterwards, I spent hours on the internet looking for remote little cabins in the Adirondacks, thinking about other cities that we might live. We took a long road trip across Canada and down into the Midwest to visit my mother and my sister. And I remember thinking the whole way, I was kind of scoping it out, thinking, do you think maybe we could live here? I remember coming back at night and driving into the city and coming along Bleecker Street towards home and having the realization that I can't leave. This is my home. This is where my family belongs. I love it here. I could never really be happy anywhere else. You can see people who've had horrible things happen to them in their lives and who live on the street, and you can see people who've been inordinately lucky and who are incredibly wealthy. Just in the course of going outside your front door, in 5 minutes, you can see that entire range of human experience. You can hear every language of the world spoken within 5 blocks of your house. You can be at the Metropolitan Museum in 20 minutes on a subway. This is a place that people come from all over the world to visit. What better place to grow up? They don't have the right to make me feel afraid. They don't know anything about me. And so I'm not going to let them have that power over me. That was that moment. But then I go to other moments where I have these images of standing over a hospital bed with my son's body in it, thinking I should have got out. I should have left. If I had left, he wouldn't be here in the hospital bed. September 11th turned me into more of a pacifist. That day just became so clear to me. There is nothing that important in life that a mother should lose her child, or a child should lose his mother or father. What could possibly be so important that you would want to take somebody else's life?